The siege of Egghead Island has begun. 30,000 Marines, 20 great warships, 9 Vice Admirals, 1 Big Boy Admiral, and 1 Elder Star, but shh, don't tell anyone, he's a secret. All of that versus a hungry group of delinquents and a swamp in a barrel. And you know what? My money's on the delinquents. I have to say though, right now, One Piece is it's seriously messing with my tiny mind brain. Because I loved everything that happened here, but I have questions, so many questions. However, this chapter was nothing short of an absolute gift for everyone, because the first character we see is the objectively best character in the series, Whoopslap, and our great mayor is definitely feeling the loss of Garp. And you can tell that he's trying to keep his classic stoic old man, no wait, stoic is the wrong word. He's trying to maintain his classic grumpy old man persona, but he knows that this is bad, like really bad. The thing about the Slap Man is that Garp's absence will be felt most by people like him, fossils who have accrued enough time units on this planet to have actually lived through the legend that is Garp, rather than those who have merely just heard stories of the past. It's hard to put into words because I really don't know if we have a real life equivalent. I mean, everyone has their own personal heroes, but to Whoopslap, Garp has always been there to ensure safety of both the world and Fuchsia Village specifically. And who's going to protect the village now? Makino? The baby? No, the most powerful person currently residing in Fuchsia Village is officially Whoopslap. He is our best and last line of defense. Speaking of Makino though, I always love seeing her again because we get to see how much the baby has grown. And in this case, the child is massive. This kid's butt is wider than Makino's entire waist. So maybe Shanks isn't the father after all, because this baby has to have some giant genes. There's a quick shot of Dadan and the bandits, and I always feel for Dadan, mostly because she's always crying. I mean, that poor woman. Only a few days ago did she read the news about Sabo, and now this immediately about both Garp and Luffy. From Dadan's perspective, it must be like her whole family is vanishing one by one. Well, I mean, in Sabo's case, reappearing, but for bad reasons, so that we can relive his tragedy all over again. That is the hell that is Dadan's life. But elsewhere around the world, the earthquake montage was scarily cool. And this chapter is just such a solid shot of One Piece because we get to see everything. Everything from the beginning in Fuchsia Village, right up until where the chapter ends in modern day Egghead. And also we get to see everything in between. Bogtown reverse mounted, Water 7 impel down Marijois, and even Wano. And others, so many others. It's one of those chapters that just cannot exist in any other series, because no other manga has the body of world building that One Piece comes equipped with 1,000 chapters into serialization. That's why it works so well, because we see all of these nostalgic locations in Crisis. And the thing is, we actually care about all of these locations because we've taken the time to get to know the people there. And it makes me wonder if Imu knew that this was going to happen when he used the weapon, or if he's just like, well, unexpected, but let's roll with it. Personally, I think he knew. I mean, he has to have known. And that opens up all sorts of sinister possibilities. Worst case scenario, things are going pretty bad for the world government. So Imu could just use the weapon again and again and again, just gradually drown the entire world. Because he's safe all the way up there at Marijois. To speak of the devastation itself, I think it's practically confirmed that this is what caused the mysterious gaping chasm that is Enies Lobby. The Lelucia Kingdom Hole looks exactly like that one, and I think the immediate conclusion is that is Enies Lobby where God Valley used to be. It makes sense because Enies Lobby very close to Marijois, so it's an easy vacation spot for world nobles, sort of like Australians hopping over to New Zealand. But also it's very close to Marineford, so it's easy to protect. In theory, that's what they thought. They were wrong. Here's a crazy thing though. We cut back to Whoopslap and Fuchsia Village when we see the global water level rising, and the look on his face is unlike anyone else's. And I think that's because he knows exactly what's happening. Because again, he lived through God Valley. The other characters we see are all too young to remember an event like this. But Whoopslap sees this and he's like, oh no, it's happening again. And all memes aside, this man, he knows so much more than he lets on. We also visited Momoira Island, although there was no reaction from Dragon or Sabo, just Ivankov and the Okama. I did find it pretty funny that they were upset mainly because they couldn't run on the beach anymore. Firstly, because it's a direct callback to Sanji's time on the island. He did a lot of that. But also, I don't think that they should be too sad about the disappearance of this beach, because thinking about it, when does a beach die? The answer is when it is forgotten. And this beach will live on forever in Sanji's hell memories. Highly underrated part of the chapter now. We then cut to Egghead Island, or outside of Egghead Island, or both in and out actually. It's a conversation between Kizaru and Sentomaru. And that conversation is very casual. In fact, you know what? Even the word conversation is too formal. They are having a chat. And we see a fantastic one-panel flashback of young Kizaru with Vegapunk and Sentomaru, which looks like Kizaru from his original rookie days as depicted depicted from the film's Ed color spread. So he's had this devil fruit for a long time. And just imagine joining the Marines already having one of the most overpowered devil fruits in the entire world. It would be pretty demoralizing for everyone who was recruited alongside him, because we all know who the future admiral is gonna be. What I find most interesting about this panel is that Kizaru isn't specifically dressed in any Marine attire. So could this be from before he joined the Marines? Maybe Vegapunk found Kizaru just like he did Sentomaru, and only after that did Kizaru join. Hence why this is oddly personal, Sentomaru referring to Kizaru as uncle and such. Bearing in mind that Sentomaru is only 34 years old, so this image can't be more than 30 years old. Kizaru would have been in his late 20s, I think, which feels like it might be a potentially late time to join the Marines, but yeah, who knows. What I really hope is that this flashback gets expanded on, but I highly doubt it will. It seems more like an SBS gift. Oda makes this one panel and then expects someone to ask a question about it later, at which point we get the backstory in great length. Also, this whole conversation takes place while Kizaru and Sentomaru are eating. In fact, this whole section is eating. We even see the Marines served food, and even Saint Saturn is downing a thick celestial sausage in his quarters, and later on the Straw Hats are seen eating as well. So in the world of wanky storytelling, this is what we call a motif. And this motif exists because this is the reality of a siege. They're not exactly packed with action, because the idea behind them is for the siegers to starve the CGs and make them surrender. That or the other way around. For the CGs to last long enough to cost the siegers so many resources and be unable to maintain the blockade. And we learned that there were 30,000 Marines currently present. And that sort of force is not cheap to feed. So what we're doing here is starting in a place where both sides have plenty of food, and I think it would be really cool if over the duration of the siege, we gradually saw food depleting on both sides. Or just one side, because this is classic war. The best fed army wins. So with that in mind, a good move here for anyone wanting to sabotage a certain Luffy would be to figure out how to shut down the food replicators. Saint Saturn then mentions Bonnie, and this is a bit confusing, because Saturn says to just leave her be, which is oddly merciful considering she's a wanted criminal, but also odd because he ordered the sinking of the ship just on the off chance that one of the researchers knew something, so why not Bonnie as well? She seems oddly in the clear at the moment. We have 9 vice admirals involved here, including old favorites like Doberman and new favorites like Doll, who a very interesting segment of this community refer to as, quote, mummy. Wait, no, it needs to be American. I guess that's mommy. Anyway, we did see a couple of these vice admirals in recent Egghead chapters, but aside from Doberman, I think that none of these characters existed before Egghead Island. They have some pretty wacky designs as well, which is always nice to see, especially with vice admirals. Vice admirals usually just look like standard dudes in suits. So thankfully we've got a guy here who looks like a long lost descendant of Oz, and a little old lady with a crazy cool pumpkin-y hairstyle. And mate, then there's this boy over here who has an undetermined amount of chins. I personally count 6, but there could be more because we still haven't seen his full body design. 9 vice admirals is a lot though. There were only 5 leading the Buster Call on any slobby. And I really don't know if we're getting away from this situation without seeing that increased firepower. Also, Saint Saturn says, don't tell anyone I'm here, which, yeah, I'm sure that's gonna go to plan, Mr. Saturn. Good luck with that. And as soon as he said that, I imagined in any slobby style scenario. You know, when Luffy and Lucci were fighting on one of the ships and then Onigumo ordered his men to destroy the ship because of absolute justice and such. That could happen here. Fighting breaks out on one of the ships and an absolute justly inclined Marine just decides to, let's get rid of it. We've got 100 more. But that's the ship that Saint Saturn is on. And then he dies and everyone's like, welp, how about we just blame this one on Luffy as well? Cutting to Egghead Island itself, I love the revelation that York has been caught this whole time while speaking to the elders. And this also came equipped with a fun Kizaru moment where he has to be told that he has the power to listen in on the conversation. And I've missed this. Kizaru's character quirk is being completely unaware of the world around him, with the exception of whatever he is laser-like focusing on at that moment. And the final spread looks amazing. A perfectly balanced Oda group shot. You can linger on it for ages and still find fun new details. In particular, I love that everyone looks so calm. Zoro, Nami, and Usopp in particular look amazing. They're so confident. And it's very rare to see both Nami and Usopp looking just like this level of in control. One or both of them are usually freaking out, especially if you were to say discover 30,000 Marines currently surrounding your location. I'd like to point out that Sanji is exactly where he wants to be, which is between York's legs, hence why he's having the time of his life. But look, despite the cheerful demeanor happening here, we have some explosive explaining to do. I know I've joked that after seeing all of this stuff with Shanks and Blackbeard and Garp that we might just skip Egghead Island, but I never expected that to actually happen. It's legitimately like we've skipped the climax of the arc and went straight to the after party. All of the immediate problems are solved. York apprehended, the Seraphim I guess are under control, or at the very least everyone's quite calm about them. Bonnie and Stella are no longer missing, which that was a big one. Essentially, every complication that Oda set up has been solved off screen. And honestly, part of me hopes that Oda won't even bother explaining, because it's the Straw Hats. We've seen them do this how many times? Like 40? We know that they know how to solve problems and come out on top. This is just another day at the office. So hey, do we really need to show our working for this one? Especially after Kaido. After dealing with him, how exciting is it gonna be to see a lesser villain painstakingly foiled? Probably not very. You can only go up from Kaido and York is not up. I do wonder if it was Oda's plan to do this, or if he just did the maths on how long Egghead Island would be during one of his breaks and thought to himself, it's a little bit too long, and decided to skip it. I mean, the idea being that the best part of the mystery is the not knowing bit, so as soon as we find out, let's just skip the rest, get to the conclusion, and let's deal with the next thing. He probably did have this in mind because it's a pretty great way to structure the scene, as well as the turning point of the entire arc. I will say that the only thing I demand an explanation for is Bonnie and Kuma's memories. That was a pretty big dramatic crux, and it gives me fictional pirate whiplash to see Bonnie and Vegapunk just chilling and not addressing the situation they were in. Also unsolved is the Monitor Monster and Caribou and the Blackbeard pirates. So Oda, look, you've still got some work to do here. All I know is that whatever happened, Chopper has seen some shit. This was not an easy night for him. Also, Lucci is there, which is delightful, but also jarring. It's like the Homelander reaction. Lucci was invited to the party after trying to kill everyone. He's just like, yeah, okay, sure, I'll go along with this. And also, it's surreal to see a world where Lucci is just hanging out. He's just part of the crew, especially while he's listening to a call between his bosses. Like, I really want to know what Lucci is thinking in this moment. There's a few key characters not present, including Robin, Kaku, Stussy, the Seraphim, and the other Vegapunks, including Shaka, who got shot in the head. The most curious one to me being Kaku. What could he be doing all on his own? Because surely we don't trust him to be on his own, or in the presence of a Vegapunk, or especially in the presence of Robin. But we shouldn't be so quick to move on just yet, because this chapter was bigger than I think we realize. Imu's decision here has quite literally changed the world. This isn't an exaggerated YouTube title, that's actually what he's done. And there's going to be a lot of consequences, as well as quite a few hidden gems that we're going to dive into in the next video.